what's going on, everybody? How you doing on today? It's your guy AC, the Future Man, and we are live. We are back with another premiere episode of a See the Place podcast, and I'm excited to be able to be back here with you all. Man, it's my first official episode in a long time. It's been a while. It's been a while since I recorded one, man, and I'm just happy to be able to come back and share and be able to talk and chat it up, man, and just really just kind of get into some topics, man, and get back into the flow of things, man. I been through a lot of things along the way, man. It's been a interesting journey, to say the least, man, just with life and so many things that's transpired since the last time we were live. I believe that the last official episode that I did was, I think, season 3, when we were talking about consistency and crisis, right? And it was really inspired, man. God placed it on my heart to talk about that because of the season that I was currently in life. There was so many different things that I was dealing with personally. I was going through so many different individual crises. I believe that's how you say it, crises. All at the same time, man. There was so many different things. And at that point in my life, I really didn't know how I was going to make it out. I really didn't know what was going to happen or what I was going to be able to do to make it out of those situations and how I was going to look on the other side of it, right? Because it had hit me in such a way, man. Just, one of the situations was mom losing her. She got sick, and just over time, she won her battle, but not on this side, So that was a blow. Now, at the same time, there was things going on with the job. That was a blow. And then while that was going on, there was some medical issues that I had, broke my hand, and some other things. So those were blows. Like, all of these things were successful. So it happened in succession. So one thing after another. So it was a hard year. And in the midst of that, God gave me that vision for last season of just learning how to be consistent in the midst of crisis, man. And I was grateful to bring in some people. I didn't try to do it on my own. I had guests that came in to help encourage me. And we shared and we talked and we had conversation about it, man. So if you didn't get a chance to check out those episodes, make sure you go back. They're available on Spotify. And some of them are available even on Facebook Live and YouTube. So if you get a chance to check them out, go back and listen. But I wanted to come in, man, on this particular episode, and I wanted to just kind of have a conversation about just my excitement for progression. I'm just excited that God has allowed me to progress the way that I have when it comes to doing podcasts, man. And I no means do I feel like I've arrived, right? I want to put that out there. So I don't want to feel like I've done the best or I've reached the climax of what it means to do podcasts, nor am I the best podcast out there. And I'm not saying that, but I can remember when I first got started doing this, right? I started off with a cell phone, using my cell phone. And there was a little $20 mic that I ordered offline. And you could plug the mic into the port of the cell phone. At that time, cell phones had lightning ports. They didn't have the new USB-C. And so you plug it in there, and then the mic would connect to the cell phone, and so it would record. You plug lapel mic, you click on your shirt. And I remember recording the audio through, I think it was Spotify at the time. You use Spotify to do podcasts, and it lets you do it for free. And I remember seeing the video on YouTube, and it was talking about how to start your podcast for free, at home. You can use your cell phone, things like that. And that's what kind of encouraged me to do it. And I had all these visions and ideas of what I wanted to do the podcast to be about. But I had all of this fear about starting because I was like, I don't have all these great things. I don't have XLR mics. I don't have videography. I don't have a studio. I don't have none of these things, but I have a passion and a drive to do it. And what ended up happening was I saw that video and I said, you know what, I'm going to just try it. I'm going to just do what they said. And that's what I did. And so I started recording on my phone, man. And I remember I would step outside of the house because the kids would be in the house making too much noise. It'd be late at night. You can hear the crickets. You can hear the bugs. You can hear the wind, all of that in my live audio, right? And I was like, you know what, I'm going to upload it anyway. Did the best I could with free editing software to, edit it, to try to take out noise and all these things. But the end result wasn't the best quality, but it was the best I could do at that time. It was a very humble beginning, and I just put it out there. I did my own graphic work, and I'm not a graphic artist by any means. That is not my, craft or skill area. But, when you're trying to do the best that you can, you got so many different things going on, and you're trying to limit, budget is a better word, trying to make sure that you can budget. You can't be as excellent in every area. So you do the best that you can, your level of excellence based off of your measure. So that's what I did. But I just look back to those times, man, and just putting out those episodes, just kind of speaking from the heart, no real editing, just real raw and uncut files. And I just, at that time, I didn't know what it would amount to, right? That was the biggest thing. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Like when I started that, my whole thing was, I just want to start. I just want to do something with what I have on the inside. And I didn't measure myself by what other people were doing. And I'm not saying like my podcast has been such a huge success. What I'm celebrating is in the midst of me being consistent from a slow start, like I've looked up today and I'm just grateful for what God has allowed me to overcome and to be able to ascertain just through my consistency in it. Because like I said, I started off with no video, no live stream, no just a cell phone and a little $20 mic. And today I have my own office. Inside of my office, I have my own computer that I use for recording and streaming. I've learned how to do my own video editing, and I got my own editing software. Just got my new set of lights that I'm learning. Now I'm studying on how to position lights to get better lighting for visual. And today, officially, literally just got out of the box. I'm using it to record this episode, my first ever official podcast mic. I've been looking and studying this mic for a long time. I've been doing a whole lot of research on, what are the reviews about it? What is people's opinions on it once they purchased it? Has it been good? Is it a great mic, especially for somebody like myself where you're not the best at it, right? So you want something that you can grow with. So if you put it in with no understanding, can it do good? And then can you grow with it? And I'm just excited because I look around and I see the progression. I see the progression over time through the consistency. And like I said, my last official episode was about consistency in crisis. And it's the definition of what being consistent can lead to. It can lead to moments to where you'll look up one day and you are way further than where you once were. And that's kind of the testimony I have. When I started doing this, I started this with minimal effort because I had minimal resources. I had minimal training. I had minimal exposure, all of these different things. And I had people around me that were telling me, hey, man, this is what you need. You need to spend $100 on this. You need to get an XLR. You need to get an interface. You need to get all these things that I couldn't afford to get. And I was like, I want to do it the way that they tell me to do it, but I just don't have the resources. So I started it, the way I could, but I was consistent in being what I could be, the way I could be, irregardless of what level of support I got or didn't get, irregardless of who championed me on and didn't champion me on. I continued to just do the best that I could at the level that I did. And I didn't allow the fact that when I looked at what I was putting out versus what what I was looking at that inspired me to put it out, I didn't let the fact that there was what I believe to be a great distance of measurement or marginalized error to stop me from putting out what I had on the inside of me. And I didn't let it stop me from continuing to reach, but I let it motivate me, if that makes sense, right? So I kept seeing the distance between even some of the people that I call friends that have great podcasts. Like my boy Willie at the No Labels podcast, man, dope guy. He's been doing it for years, man, and he's definitely perfected his craft in such a great way. One of my inspirations for even wanting to do this, just looking at the level that he's able to do what he's been doing for so many years, consistently putting out episodes. And I'm trying to get to that basis of consistent episodes. I didn't feel intimidated by his success or his growth, but I let it inspire me. And he was one of the ones I actually reached out to on things that I could need. And I'm saying that to say, like, just continuing to stay motivated and staying consistent. It was a gradual growth. Like, it was step by step. I didn't get all of this overnight. Like, everything that I got that I currently have was piece by piece, little by little. Like I said, the mic literally just came today. I've had the computer for about a year. The lights, I think, just kind of came today. I had to learn how to do my own video editing. That took over a year and a half. I'm about 2 years into doing video graphics and editing stuff. All of these things was over time, a process of time of just constantly putting out things, feeling like, okay, it's not the best that it could be. It's not, I guess the best word I could think of right now is like mainstream material, right? but it's the best that I have to offer. And instead of hiding what the best I have to offer is, I put it out there. And like I said, irregardless of who appreciates it, who doesn't, who likes, who shares, who comments, taking out the fear of rejection and all these other things that, if we're honest, hides within our hearts, especially for those of us that want to be successful, whatever we do, where there's that fear of, well, what if they don't like me? What if they don't support me? What if they don't comment? What if they don't tell me it's good? What if I do it and nobody shows up? All these things that we're worried about. Not letting that stop me. And like I said, it's not that I became an overnight success, but I'm celebrating the fact that I'm not where I used to be. And I've come so far. And because I'm able to look up and see how far I've come, I'm even more encouraged to keep going. I'm even more encouraged to see, okay, well, how far can I really take this? Because I didn't expect myself to come as far as I did the way that I've done it. I didn't really see myself being just embedded into the situation the way that I am. And I'm just grateful that consistency has a process of paying off. And I want to encourage somebody with this episode on today. Maybe you're like me, right? Maybe you're afraid of stepping out, right? And maybe your fear of stepping out is based off of the same thing mine was. You're looking at everybody else that's doing it and you're comparing yourself and you're saying, what if I'm not measuring up to their level of standard? What if I don't meet their quality? What if I don't meet their level of excellence, right? And so fear is keeping you from even starting out with something that God has placed a vision on you to do, a vision in your heart to do. I want to remind you of a scripture. When Jesus was walking on the water, very familiar passage of scripture, so you may have heard it before. But when Jesus was walking on the water, he was coming back to the disciples. And the funny thing about it is, while he was coming, the Bible says that they thought it was a ghost. And Jesus had to call out to him because there was a storm going on. I hope I'm setting this up properly. So a storm going on, it's very chaotic. Jesus comes walking on the water in the midst of chaos. All right, catch this. So he's walking on the waves, right? A wavy sea. It's not a flat sea. The waves is pushing the sea because it's a storm. The winds is blowing. He's walking on the midst of chaos, and he's coming. The disciples think he's a ghost. And so it's all this fear-inducing things taking place. And so he calls out to them, lets them know, hey, it's me. Peter has a unique response. He says, Lord, if it's you, then let me do what you're doing. I want you to hear that because it's powerful. Because the idea is, what he recognized was, I don't want you to stop the chaos. I want you to give me the power to move on chaos like you are. I want you to catch that. So instead of him saying, stop the storm, I want you to give me the power to walk in the midst of the chaotic situation. And God says, come. And Peter steps out on faith and begins to walk on the midst of chaos, just like Jesus did. Now, many people preach that particular text from the concept of when Peter fell, right? He got distracted, took his eyes off Jesus. We know that he began to sink within the water, and Jesus had to pull him up, right? Because he got distracted, because he started doubting. But I want to focus on the fact that he stepped out. And so even though he failed, even though Jesus had to reach down and pull him out of the situation, he still has the testimony of being the only disciple that can say, I did something that y'all didn't do. I got out the boat. I know what it feels like to be stable in the midst of a chaotic situation and knowing how to walk on it. And I want to tell you, you don't get that experience being afraid. You only get that experience by stepping out on faith. And there are just some things in life you have to make a decision of saying, do I want to have the experience of being able to say, I did this, even if I'm not as successful as somebody else? Catch this, receive it, and let it inspire you, because I hope you're hearing what I'm saying to you, because I'm saying it with the passion of a person that has yet to reach the level that I'm trying to reach. But I recognize I'll never get to that level if I keep being afraid to step out on things that are not as certain as the boat in which I'm sitting on. Sometimes you got to be willing to step out in the midst of what looks like it could possibly turn out bad for you. And that's the only way you're going to end up in a successful situation. Many people never be successful in anything in life because they're too comfortable being in what worked for them, because they're afraid of stepping out. So you got to step out. Maybe your fear isn't stepping out. Maybe your problem isn't getting out the boat. Maybe you struggle with the same thing Peter did, which is once you get out there, you get distracted. But I want to let you know that you can learn from the mistakes of those that come before you. You already know that when you get out of this boat, you're going to be in the midst of a storm. You already know because you felt the wind, you felt the waves, you saw the chaos before you stepped out. But the moment you set your feet on water and was able to stand, you should be encouraged to know the situation hasn't changed at all. But what has changed is I'm doing something in the midst of this situation that I've never done before. And so because of that, I need to be encouraged that even though it still looks just as chaotic as it did, it's not doing to me what I thought it would do. And since it's not, I need to not give in to that fear, but I got to keep stepping. And the only way I can keep stepping is I got to keep focused. And how do I keep focused? I'll be focused on the one that called me in the first place. All vision comes from God. All inspiration comes from the Father. And so if he placed a vision on the inside of you, even when it looks like that vision is going to fail, you need to be reminded to keep your focus on him. I'm getting to my third point. I didn't even mean for this to turn into a sermon, but we're here, so we're going to just roll with it. Because the third thing is when it did fall, when it does fail, when it doesn't work out the way that you think that it should, you still have an opportunity to call out to the one that put you out there in the first place. And that's where most people mess up. Sometimes people are afraid to start, but they'll step out. Sometimes people will step out and they'll fail. But the biggest mistake that you can make is once you overcome the fear of stepping out, and once you go through the situation of struggling and find yourself going through some failure, the biggest mistake that you can make is forgetting to call out to the one that called you in the first place. I recognize that I'm in a situation where it's not the best for me. And sometimes in the midst of me trying to do what it is that I believe I've been called to do, I find myself going through some things that I did not expect to go through, or I find myself going through exactly what I thought would happen. And I'm afraid because now I'm in something that I knew could happen. And I feel myself drowning in the midst of this. And I'm here only because I thought when you said step out that this would not happen, but it did. But I'm here to remind you that even though things may not have turned out the way that you thought it should, God is still right there to pull you back up. You've got to trust that, first of all, when he said come, he's calling you into a stable place, even though it looks like chaos. So you've got to recognize that once you get into that place of following him, you cannot get distracted along the way. And the final thing is, should you ever get distracted, should you ever find yourself falling short in any way, capacity, shape, or form, you can call out to him and he'll pull you up. I hope I said something on the day. I didn't mean for this to turn into a 3-point sermon in the conclusion, but hey, we're here. I'm a preacher. You know, it happens, whatever. I thank God for what he does, that he does to me, you know. But I wanted to share this, man. I wanted to just give something to encourage somebody, because I believe that there are many people that have been called to do so much more in life than what you're doing right now. And the only reason why you haven't done it is because you're measuring yourself by an invisible line that you put between the distance from where you can start and where somebody else is. You don't know their journey, first of all. You don't know where they started. You just know where they are right now. But wherever you can start, just start. Don't be afraid. Don't compare yourself to somebody else's highlight reel when you haven't even started your behind the scenes. Be encouraged and know that there's a blessing in beginning, and there's an even greater blessing in consistency. I'm grateful on today for what God has allowed me to accomplish in this short amount of time. And I say short because I haven't been doing it as long as others, but I've been doing it for a couple of years. But just to be able to see what I've accomplished, and I haven't even been as invested in it as I could be, I'm excited and encouraged to know what he can do once I dial all the way in. So if you don't hear nothing else on today, know this: it's time for you to get invested in what God has called you to do. Hey, until next time, guys, this has been a Seated Place podcast. I'm your host, AC the Future. I love y'all. God bless.